The Book of Destiny. Translation of Kitab-ul-Taqdeer. Author Ghulam Ahmed Parwez. Translated by Dr. Ejaz Rasool. Glasgow, UK. ISBN number 9798884207042. Glossary. Though the meanings of the Quranic words and terms used in this book are generally explained within the text itself, a short list of some of these with a more detailed explanation is considered to be useful also. This glossary is mostly taken from the book by the author titled, Islam, A Challenge to Religion. According to the author, these meanings are based on the following. 1 Lane, Arabic English Lexicon 2. Lisan al-Arab 3. Taj al-Aruz 4. Muhit al-Muhit 5. Ragib, Mufradat al-Quran. These interpretations are also supported by the context within which they have been used in the respective Quranic verses. All the relevant terms and phrases have been discussed at great length in his other work, Lugat al-Quran, the Lexicon of the Quran, which is also available in English. In the following explanations, the respective roots of the relevant terms and phrases are given in brackets. Some meanings have been edited to meet the requirements of this book.
Amr.
In English there is only one word to denote production of a thing, namely, creation. The Quran, however, has indicated 2 stages of creation. The first stage is that of divine planning, where Allah's directive energy initiates an inchoate object on the path leading to its destined incarnation. And the process by which it finally assumes the material form intended for it is called the process of creation. Creation involves the blending of various elements in a particular manner and in particular proportions, so as to produce an entirely new thing, for instance, the formation of water through a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. How divine planning operates in the various stages of
Amr
is not known to us, but in the world of creation it can be comprehended through the physical laws. Indeed, man can not only comprehend the operation, but also cooperate with Allah in this creative process. The laws under which the various objects in the universe function are made in the world of divine planning,
Alamul Amr,
but they are enforced and executed in the world of creation,
Alamul Khalq,
and by Ya, the plural of Nabi, QV. Batil, this means not only destructive pursuits, rather every one of those things is termed as batil which has no constructive result, when something is tested against a standard and it fails to meet that criteria, i.e. haqq is that which meets the standard, and batil is that which does not meet the standard, hence it is the opposite of haqq. Batil does not denote merely those ideas or actions which possess destructive potentialities, but includes all thinking and conduct that does not lead to constructive outcomes. Bar, are generally translated as virtuous or pious deeds. In fact, it has a much wider sense. The basic meanings of the word are extensiveness, largeness, ampleness. It therefore signifies conduct that tends to expand the personality of the individual, and to ensure the fulfillment and happiness of the whole society. Such conduct helps to rid men of narrow-mindedness and to widen their outlook, and ensures an abundant supply of the necessities of life for all. Deen, dy, and this word has been used in various senses, among them being, ascendancy, sovereignty, management or conduct of affairs, ruling power, power of dominion, mastership, ownership, possession or exercise of power, code of law, constitution of a state, in modern terminology, law of requital, an order in which consequences of human actions can be measured, obedience, subjection, a way, course, mode, manner or conduct of life. Deen would be all these aspects taken together. Now the Quran has described Islam as ad-Din, which is generally translated in English as religion. In light of the meanings given above, however, it should be clear that this supposed English equivalent is not only incorrect, but distorts and vitiates the true significance of Deen. Islam is not a religion. In the entire text of the Quran it has not been described even once as a religion, madhab. Islam is, in fact, a way of life, a social system, a polity, a code of law. In the context of the external universe, Islam signifies the divine order that governs the life and movement of the entire universe. The whole aim and purpose of the Quran is the establishment of a universal order founded upon the divinely ordained values of life. This is ad-Din. Haqq, HQQ, a very comprehensive Quranic term. It is usually translated in English as truth or right, but in fact it has a much wider connotation. According to Lane, its primary signification is suitableness to the requirements of wisdom, justice, right, or rightness, truth, reality or fact, or to the exigencies of the case, as the suitableness of the foot of a door in respect of its socket for turning round rightly, the state, or quality, or property of being just, proper, right, correct or true. The state of being established or confirmed as a truth or fact. Everlasting. Existence. Valid, substantial, or real. Existing as an established fact so as to be undeniable. These several meanings of this word make it perfectly clear that haqq is by no means confined to the realm of thoughts and ideas, notions, and beliefs. It stands for those constructive results of conceptions and beliefs which manifest themselves in a tangible form and are in harmony with the changing needs of the times. No belief or theory relating to this world can be described as haqq unless its truth is established by a positive manifestation of its constructive potentialities. These constructive results will be abiding and imperishable, for the word haqq is used only for things that are abiding and imperishable. The antithesis of haqq is batil. It might be emphasized again that batil does not stand merely for ideas or actions with destructive potentialities but includes all thinking and conduct that do not lead to constructive results. Itham, ithm. The Quran uses various terms to denote crime or transgression of the laws of Allah. These terms have in fact been used to indicate the different effects or results of crime. For instance, a person who wishes to keep to the right path in life ought to follow the party that has come into existence for the good of all mankind. This party or group is called Ummatun Muslimatun. If, however, he conducts himself in a manner that makes him so weak, depressed, and listless that he is unable to keep in step with the party and tends to lag behind, he is guilty of itham. In other words, every action which weakens human personality would fall within the category of itham. On the other hand, there are crimes that stimulate one's spirit of defiance and prompt him to transgress the limits of the law. Such crimes are described as udwain. Both these categories of crimes, udwain as well as itham, involve infringement of the laws of Allah. They differ only in respect of their results. It should be clear that the prevailing conception of sin does not exist in the Islamic code of ethics. The notion that infringement of the divine injunction is sin, whereas violation of the social code and rules is crime, is a fallacy which is in conflict with the Islamic view of life. The Islamic society is an agency for the enforcement of the divine laws. It therefore rules out a duality between the laws and injunctions of Allah and those of society. This kind of duality is conceivable only in religion, not in deen. Iman, amn, to be convinced, to accept, to verify something, to rely upon, or have confidence in. This is usually translated in English as belief or faith, and faith, in turn, signifies acceptance without proof or argument, or without reference to reason or thought, knowledge or insight. Faith is generally regarded as the negation of knowledge or reason. It is said about Kant, for instance, that he found it necessary to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. Indeed, Kant himself suggests a trichotomy of the modes of cognition into knowledge, opinion, and belief. Opinion is such holding of a judgment as is consciously insufficient, not only objectively but also subjectively. If our holding of a judgment be only subjectively sufficient, and is at the same time taken as being objectively insufficient, we have what is termed believing. Lastly, when the holding of a thing to be true is sufficient both subjectively and objectively, it is knowledge. From the Critique of Pure Reason. According to the Quran, however, Iman is not what has been described above as believing, it is what Kant calls knowledge. In fact, Iman is synonymous with conviction and is based on reason and knowledge. The Quran does not recognize as Iman any belief that is divorced from reason, and involves blind acceptance of any postulate. It is true that Deen involves the acceptance of certain things which cannot be known through sense perception, but there is no reason to presume that things which cannot be thus perceived do not exist. Indeed, our reason and thinking compel us to recognize the existence of many such things. In any event, Iman, according to the Quran, signifies the conviction that results from full mental acceptance and intellectual satisfaction. This kind of conviction bestows a feeling of
أمن
inner contentment and peace,
أمن
and Iman have a common root, Amen. And a mu'min is one who accepts the truth in such a way that it ensures his own peace and helps him to safeguard the peace and security of the rest of mankind. Indeed, al-mu'min is one of the attributes of Allah himself. 59:23. Huzn, hzn generally translated as grief. It is a composite word, and used for every misfortune that may befall a human being including economic hardship e.g. anxiety and worry about earning a daily living. The Quran has declared that if human beings follow the Quranic guidance and establish the system of Deen, then they will be free from fear and huzn e.g. 2.38. This means to not allow those causes to arise which create huzn. This root contains an element of hardness, harshness, and intensity. Fear, kaf, is generated due to some anticipated danger, i.e. some event likely to occur in the future. The situation which becomes created before some possible loss is kaf. After this loss, this fear ends, and huzn commences.
جهنم
Usually translated as hell, which again does not properly convey the Quranic sense of the term. According to the Quran, life has manifested itself in the human form after having gone through various stages of the process of evolution. This is the final link in the evolution of life in this world. But life is not limited to this world, it continues beyond death. The higher life that the individual with a developed personality is capable of leading after his life in this material world, is called a heavenly life, or the life of Jannah. On the other hand, the evolution of a personality not so developed is bound to be thwarted. This kind of life is called an infernal life.
جهنم
Jannah and
جهنم
do not stand for places or localities, they denote different conditions of human life, which have been described metaphorically. It should also be clear that these conditions do not relate entirely to the life hereafter, they have their beginnings here in this world of matter. A social order based upon Quranic foundations results in a happy situation. The necessities of life are available in abundance and are secured in extremely decent ways befitting human dignity. This brings about true happiness and peace of mind. This is called a heavenly life, Jannah. On the other hand, a society based upon principles repugnant to the laws of Allah engenders anxiety and discontentment, and this is an infernal life.
جهنم جهنم
Is a Hebrew compound word composed of G and Hinnom, and meaning the valley of Hinnom. This was a famous valley situated in the south of Jerusalem where men were burnt alive and offered as a sacrifice to the idol Moloch.
جهنم
Therefore, denotes a situation in which humanity is ruined. In Arabic, the word jahim is often used in this sense. It means to prevent, that is, it denotes a condition in which human evolution is prevented, and life begins to stagnate instead of progressing. Jannah, see
جهنم
Khair, khy are usually translated in English as good, as against shar, which is translated as evil. These equivalents again do not give the exact Quranic meanings of the words. Man is endowed with manifold faculties and powers. When he uses these faculties in accordance with the laws of Allah, the results are conducive to the development of his own personality as well as for the welfare of mankind as a whole. This is khair. When, on the other hand, the potentialities of man are used in contravention of the laws of Allah, the result tends to bring about the disintegration of the individual's personality and harm the interests of humanity at large. This is shar. Moreover, Such human faculties as are not put to any constructive use also fall within the definition of shar. This exposition of the notions of khair and shar also provides an answer to the question why Allah, who is himself khair, has created shar. In fact, shar is not an independent quality or force created by Allah. Man has been created with a free will, and when he, by his own choice, uses his potentialities for destructive purposes, the result is shar. Kalk, see
Amr.
Kufr, kfr. This is the antonym, or negation, of iman. It means to deny the truth, to prevent, to defy the laws of Allah. Basically, the word means to cover or conceal. One who denies the truth in fact seeks to conceal it. He is, therefore, called a kafir. Kufr means open denial, not hypocrisy. The hypocrite professes to believe in a thing that he does not accept at heart. The kafir, on the other hand, has at least the forthrightness to proclaim his belief. That is why the Quran condemns and consigns the hypocrite to the lowest depths of hell. The definition of kufr, however, is not confined to denial of the truth. It includes the concealment or withholding of the means of subsistence, which Allah has created for the good of all mankind, and which He wants to be freely available to all. Madhab, zhb literally means way, or course. This word does not appear in the Quran, and in Islamic jurisprudence, fiqh, it stands for school of thought. The English word religion is usually translated as madhab, and deen. Since Islam is generally described in English as a religion, the word madhab has come to be used for it in Urdu also. This is a fundamental fallacy. It might be stressed once again that Islam is a deen, not a madhab. Today, the only divine deen is Islam, whose principles and precepts are enshrined in the Quran. Maghfirah, gfr, usually translated as forgiveness. The Quranic law of requital, however, entirely negates the very conception of forgiveness. Every human action, according to this law, has a natural and logical outcome for which there can be no forgiveness. The correct meaning of the word maghfirah is to protect. For instance, mifar means the helmet or piece of mail with which a soldier protects his skull and neck. The first prerequisite for the prevention of disease is one's internal resistance, that is to say, his body should have sufficient internal strength to withstand an attack by forces detrimental to its health. If, however, the attack proves too strong and the person falls ill, his resistance must be strengthened so as to prevent the disease from taking a fatal turn, and to effect its cure. This preventive and curative process would be called maghfirah. Faithful compliance with the laws of Allah gives man sufficient strength to resist the destructive forces in life. But if he should ever fall into error and be guilty of infringing these laws, and his personality should consequently be weakened, the remedy would lie in good conduct calculated to recuperate and strengthen his personality and save him from the harmful effect of his lapse. This is called maghfirah. Malaika, alk or mlk, the latter being preferable. This is usually translated in English as angels, but the common religious notion of the word is very different from its Quranic conception. The universe can be divided into two parts, the material world which we can perceive through the senses, and the world beyond our powers of perception. The Quran, in the first instance, uses the word malaika to denote the forces of nature at work in the world of matter. For instance, when it says in the allegorical account of Adam that all the malaika prostrate themselves before Adam, it means that man has been endowed with the capacity to subdue and conquer the forces of nature. Moreover, besides the physical forces of nature, the Quranic meaning of malaika includes the psychological forces within the individual himself. When used with reference to the other part of the universe, the one beyond our powers of perception, malaika stands for the forces at work there to fulfill Allah's purpose, and to shape in practice the divine scheme of things. In this sense the word also includes the agencies through which the word of Allah has been revealed to various anbiya, for the guidance of mankind. So, in this sense, malaika may also be called messengers. Malaika are not endowed with any will or independent power, they are devoted to the performance of their respective duties, and cannot act otherwise than they do. Man is the only being in the whole universe endowed with a free will and independent power. Mushrik, shrk1 guilty of shirk, qv, plural form is mushrikeen. Nabi, this is usually translated in English as prophet, one who prophesies. This translation is again incorrect and misleading. Nabi is not a derivative of naba'an, which means to inform. In olden times the word Nabi was used for a special functionary in the Jewish temple whose function was to prophesy future events. In its Quranic connotation the word Nabi is derived from Nabwatan, which means an elevated place. It therefore means a person standing on a pedestal, in other words, one who lives in this material world but can also perceive the unseen world beyond, because he, such a person, is endowed with divine revelation, wahi. See also Rasool. Nabawat, the function or office of the Nabi is called Nabawat, that is, the function of securing divine guidance through revelation. For details see Nabi. Quran, Qra, the book that Allah gave to Muhammad,
peace be upon him,
through revelation, and which he passed on to the Muslims in the form in which we know it today. The internal evidence provided by the Quran itself, as well as historical research, proves beyond a shadow of doubt that not even a comma of the original Quranic text has been changed. This is a unique attribute of the Quran and is not shared by any other revealed book now extant. The Quran embodies the deen revealed to the earlier Anbiya in its true and perfect form. This book does not give us merely a code of ethics, it provides us with a code of life which embodies guidance, principles, and laws relating to every sphere of human life and activity. The Quran, according to Islam, is the final authority in matters of deen. The injunctions and the principles contained in the book form the cornerstone of the Islamic polity, and the limits laid down by it provide the framework within which the laws of the Islamic State may be formulated. These principles, or limits, or framework, are immutable, but the statutes made by the state within these parameters are open to modification and change according to the needs of the times. The Quran is the last of the divine books because Nubuwwat ended with Muhammad,
peace be upon him.
No subsequent human opinion or pronouncement in matters of deen, therefore, can be recognized as authoritative, nor can any man-made law repugnant to the Quran be regarded as binding upon Muslims. The Quran is a book of guidance for all mankind and transcends the barriers of time and space. The Islamic State is an instrument for the enforcement of the laws and injunctions embodied in the Quran. Rabb, RBB, usually translated in English as the Lord. Again, the English equivalent does not convey the real meaning and significance of the Arabic original. Rabb means one who enables a thing or person to grow and develop and eventually to realize all its potentialities, and the process by which a person, or object, thus fulfills himself is called Rabubayat. Nothing in the universe comes into being in a state of perfection or fulfillment, it is born with certain potentialities which, when developed and actualized, enable the object concerned to become what it was designed to be. Like other objects and beings in the universe, man is also endowed with manifold potentialities which, if properly developed, enable him to rise from the animal to the human level. The Quran seeks to establish, in accordance with the divine laws, a social order under which the latent potentialities of every individual can be fully realized. This realization of the individual's potentialities will include the sustenance and growth of his body as well as the fulfillment of his personality. This kind of social system is called the Rabubayat order, and its establishment is the ultimate end and purpose of the Deen of Islam. Rabubayat, see Rab. Rasool, RSL, the duty of the Nabi does not end with the securing of divine guidance, in fact, this is but the beginning of his task. The root of the word Rasool means a messenger, or one who has a message to deliver. It is the duty of the Nabi to deliver to mankind the message revealed to him by Allah without the slightest change or modification. It is by virtue of this function that he is called a Rasool. But even the faithful delivery of the divine message does not complete the performance of the Rasool's function. He is also responsible for setting up a social order in compliance with the principles enshrined in the divine message that he has delivered. In other words, he is entrusted with the establishment of Allah's kingdom upon earth. He is charged with the revolutionary function of ending the sway of tyrannical, oppressive, and self-seeking rulers and priests, and establishes a free order of society in which men will not be dependent upon other men and will not be subject to anything except the divine law. The Rasool, from this point of view, appears as a great revolutionary who does not content himself with sermons, but implements the divine law practically by example, and seeks to bring all men under its sway. This is the real function of the Rasool, Risalat. In view of the above explanation, it is clear that Nabi and Rasool are two facets of a single entity, or two faces of the same coin. A Nabi is also a Rasool, and vice versa. The plural form of Rasool is Rasul. Nabawa, or reception of the revelation of divine guidance by the Anbiya or Rasul, ended with Muhammad,
peace be upon him.
The guidance revealed to him is preserved and enshrined fully and exactly in the Quran. But the function of Risalat, or the delivery of the divine message to all of mankind and the establishment of a social order in accordance with its principles, has devolved upon the nation or ummah that has iman in that book, that is, the Quran. Ruh, RWH, usually translated as spirit or soul. Spirit has a special meaning in Christian metaphysics, and soul is the expression of a peculiar notion in Greek philosophy. The Quranic conception of ruh differs essentially from soul as well as spirit. Its most appropriate translation would be divine energy, which expresses itself through a free and self-determining will. Free will is possessed only by Allah, who imparts it to human beings also. No other being is endowed with this power. The Quran holds that the power of the human will is not a product of man's natural constitution. It cannot, therefore, be called a material force. It is a power specially bestowed by Allah upon men. That explains why Allah has described it as his Ruh, meaning thereby the human personality, which is the bearer of the free will. This should not, however, be taken to mean that the human personality is a part of the divine personality. Personality is absolutely indivisible. No personality, therefore, can possibly be a part of any other personality. We are all familiar with the fallacy that the human spirit is a part of the spirit of Allah bogged down in the world of matter, and that the whole end and purpose of man's life on earth is to purge the spirit of its material impurity, so that it may merge again with the divine spirit. This misconception is thoroughly repugnant to the spirit. Allah has endowed every individual with an inchoate personality, and the purpose of his worldly life is to develop his personality so that it may be able, after death, to continue its journey further. The word ruh has been used in the Quran in other senses also. But in the present work it has not been used in any of the other senses. The other meanings are, therefore, not given here. Shaitan, SHTN, man is endowed with manifold faculties and is free to use them as he wills. These faculties include his impulses. If he uses these faculties in accordance with the laws of Allah, then constructive results, which are conducive to the benefit of the interests of all of mankind, follow. If, on the other hand, he uses his faculties in a manner repugnant to the laws of Allah, the results are destructive. The impulse that induces man to use his faculties in contravention of the divine laws is called shaitan. The common English equivalent for this word, namely, devil, does not properly express the Quranic sense of the original term. The word shaitan has also been used for defiant or rebellious human beings, in other words, for such men as defy the laws of Allah themselves and also induce others to defy those laws. Since destructive activity inevitably brings frustration and sorrow, shaitan has also been called Iblis, which means a disappointed being who fails to secure happiness in life. Shar, seeker. Shirk, shrk, obedience to man-made laws along with or in contravention of the laws of Allah. Islam does not permit obedience to any laws other than those laid down by Allah. Indeed, not only actual obedience to other laws, but even the belief that it is permissible and proper to obey these laws is tantamount to shirk. Polytheism is generally understood to mean the worship of idols. It is, of course, true that idol worship, or the worship of any of the forces of nature, amounts to shirk. But this definition is not exhaustive, nor are these forms of worship the most serious manifestations of shirk, for they result mainly from ignorance. The most heinous form of shirk is obedience to laws and injunctions other than those of Allah. From the Islamic point of view, the important thing is obedience, not worship. Muslims obey Allah, they do not worship Him in the general sense of the word. Taqdeer, Qdr. This is generally translated as fate, and fatalism is widely believed to be one of the fundamental elements of the Islamic creed. This is absolutely wrong. A theory of life which is based upon the freedom of the human will cannot possibly have anything to do with fatalism. Human freedom and fatalism are mutually contradictory concepts. A mango stone embedded in soil, if properly looked after and nourished, has the capacity to grow into a mango tree, which will eventually yield the mango fruit. The realization of this potentiality of the mango stone is called its taqdeer. To be more precise, taqdeer means measure. The true measure of the mango stone is the mango tree. If a stone does not grow into a tree, it does not conform to its measure. On the other hand, no mango stone can grow beyond its measure. This is the destiny of the mango stone. Man has been endowed with manifold potentials. If he follows the right path in life and adheres to it, his potentialities are gradually realized, and his personality is so developed that he is enabled to attain the perfect human stature in this life, and to cover the evolutionary stages yet to come beyond this world, the life in the hereafter. This development of the individual is called his taqdeer. Taqwa, WQY. The common English equivalent, namely, piety, does not properly express the real meaning of the word. Deviation from the path of right conduct leads man to ruin. Taqwa helps to keep him on the right path and thus save him from ruin. But merely saving oneself from ruin is a negative virtue, whereas the Quran regards the positive aspect of life as being of fundamental importance. In the context of the Quran, therefore, taqwa involves not only saving oneself from the forces of destruction but also stabilizing one's personality through the preservation and enforcement of the laws of Allah. To be more concrete, it means the faithful and efficient performance of all the duties that Allah has enjoined upon man through revealed guidance. This meaning is wide enough to include loftiness of character and purity of conduct. One who leads a life of taqwa is called muttaqi. Tawbah, TWB. While on his way to a particular place, an individual reaches a crossing, and from there he takes a turn and continues on. But after a short while he realizes that he has put himself on the wrong path, which will not take him to his destination. He must now turn back and return to that point from where he took the wrong turn. This kind of return is called tawbah. It is obvious, however, that a mere return to the crossroads will not take the man to his destination. He will also have to adopt the right path. Tawbah, therefore, covers all three aspects of the process: realizing one's error, retracing one's steps, and then taking the right course. Zulm, ZLM. Words based on this root appear frequently in the Quran. It means not to keep something at its proper place, either by increasing or decreasing it, or removing it from its proper place or time, to disturb the balance of something, crossing the limits, placing a thing in a wrongful place. Its basic meanings are of darkness, for light to be extinguished, i.e. there being no light where there should have been a light. In the physical domain we need light to see things clearly. Similarly, in matters of our collective life we need the light of the Quran to avoid conflicts and to remove differences among us. It is also translated as injustice and the creation of imbalances in society.